Hello and welcome back to the Pinnacle Stack. Today we're a man down, as you can see, without Hawker. He's currently in the process of moving.
Stop joking.
Yeah, Brandon's joy might not be echoed across the rest of the channel, but we'll see when he's back. It should be for the next one. And as a result of him not being in this, we'll have a different video coming up soon. Little Brandon's theory crafting coming out in that, but we'll leave that for down the road. But today, well, I just want to start off, Brandon. You recently casted the Thunderpick finals, so I just want to ask you about how that was.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a really good opportunity, to be honest. Like being able to cast an S tier final is a privilege, and obviously you worry about doing it justice. But I feel like the game really delivered. Like it was such an awesome game between FaZe and VP. It felt like VP threw it away on Vertigo. They were winning 8-1. It then went to overtime, and from there, it just FaZe. They do what they do best, and they're able to adapt into situations. They're able to just to recover, and when the pressure isn't really on them, they're able just to deliver quite a lot. And it was a classic FaZe run. It was one of those where I felt like they beat the harder opponents compared to VP, because VP, they beat Monte. That was an incredible game. It felt like Monte could have won that in the semifinals as well. They beat Heroic, who obviously did well to even get to the playoffs in the first place, considering what's going on with them. And then FaZe beat Mouse, and yeah, it was a great final. I think FaZe deserved to win it. Shout out VP though, because they're looking very good in CS2.
There's definitely a team as well. I remember everyone saying when we were doing the earlier podcasts of, what playstyle would suit for CS2, and the VP was the name that kept thrown out there. But FaZe as well, they're currently the kings of CS2. They've won the first S tier LAN event and now the first S tier online event.
Yeah.
So they're probably looking to make it a triple threat as they go into China and get another win there. But we'll talk about that a bit later on. I saw as well, just on topic slightly, but
okay,
sure. Away a bit. Some Young on Twitter, I think it was after Rubex. I believe they were finalists.
Yes, yeah, they were. They're finalists against VP.
Yeah, and they lost. He was like, I want to win a trophy. I just want to win a final. And then they took that second loss in Thunderpick, and the tweets just came out again. And he was just, I feel so bad for him. He just wants to win something, just anything.
It felt like they should have really won in that Thunderpick game. I didn't see the Rubek one, but the Thunderpick semi, it really felt like they were going to win. It felt like they were the team that were going to do it, put up a good final potentially against FaZe, and it just didn't happen. And VP, you can't put them away. You can't do it. Only the very best teams can, and FaZe did it. It was rough. It was unfortunate, the fact that Monte lose a grand final and a semi-final, and it's both to the same team. Like that's rough.
It's a rivalry developing there, definitely. Then, but the other thing as well about Monte, do you reckon it's just like a matter of time before they do win something, or do you think there's like something in their play style or anything like that they need to change? Because for me, they don't necessarily have these star players that everyone speaks about, but they, they're a competitive team against some of the top.
So the thing is, Monte have got a little bit of like heroic syndrome, where they kind of get into these finals in online, and I think they're creating more expectation for themselves. I still feel like the community doesn't have a great expectation on Monte, apart from, yeah, they've proved it in online, and now they're appearing at tier 1, and then they're not doing too bad. The biggest thing for Monte, and I was speaking to Hawker about it actually before we went live, and that's the difference in roles that have come since Bro's come in. So Krasnal is now undertaking more star player roles. He's beginning to take like more of Boris's roles when Boris was in the team. And as a result, he's like taking more star player. He's still playing some like difficult ones. Like Hawker was saying to me that he's still playing like B on Mirage and things like that. So it isn't true star player roles, but what it does do is give him a lot more opportunity to work, because when he got brought in towards Monte to start with, he was always an anchor player. But in Los Cogutos and teams before, he was always a star player. So he had to have time to adjust to those roles. Now he's getting that, and also they're also adjusting to CS2. I think they're making very good strides. I think it will happen eventually, to be honest, looking at that team. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe. I feel like the thing is, it's like, when's the breaking point for them? Like, how many tournaments do you go by before you think, oh, this isn't working? But Monte are definitely one of those teams where they're more than happy to keep their roster if they can. And I like that from my previous rants in previous podcasts. So I think they'll stick with it. And I feel like they will have an opportunity at some stage down the line to win a tournament. I feel like it is coming.
Are they playing in CCTs coming up?
Oh, well, you've asked me, I guess, Mr. CCT. Let me look.
The other thing,
I don't know off
just
the top of my head. Carry on.
on Krasnal, I saw Hawker's tweet. We'll take it completely out of context and just say that he
Sure.
called him sexy. But
Yeah.
that was what I thought. So he was overlooked. So yeah, Hawker's definitely sharing those same opinions as you then on Krasnal.
It doesn't look like it because obviously CCT is coming to an end as well. We've currently got the Central Europe Series 8 playing out, which is the last for Central Europe. I think there is East Europe 4 that is the last one that is upcoming. I would imagine they play in that. But apart from that, I know they've got Challenger League, they've got Yongshiping, and I think they're part of Atlanta according to the world rankings. So they'll be at the next 2 ESL Challengers.
Nice. So
They
some
could
good
win one of
competition there
those.
for them.
Yeah. I think they could win Yongshiping. I feel like that realistically, I could see Monte winning Yongshiping. However, that's hard because VP are there and VP keep beating them. So
yeah, we'll see if they can take them down on LAN as well. So definitely be interesting. I mean, they've performed well on LAN, at least from recent memory, especially if we go back to the major now. I feel like they were kind of overshadowed by Gamer Legion and Apex's runs. Gamer Legion, fair enough, they made the finals. But yeah, I feel like there were so many underdogs, these scrappy teams that made it into that playoff stage at the major that you're obviously not always going to remember some of them. And I mean, Into the Breach kind of being remembered for the wrong reasons at this point because they are not really anywhere to be seen currently. So, which is a shame for us, but it's a good segue onto a bit of UK hope coming up. Not officially confirmed,
right,
but it looks like mezii is joining Team Vitality, and just like to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, well, what we do know is that he's standing in for them in Blast Full Showdown or Full Finals.
Yeah, sorry. Premier Full Finals.
Premier Full Finals. I always get confused with the names of these tournaments, but
just speaking on that as well with CCT, I get so confused because it's how like it's like East Europe or whatever Europe. I swear the teams from that part of Europe don't. There's always other teams from other places of Europe that compete in them. Am I wrong in that?
So no, you are right. And the easiest way to explain this and what I've been told is that even though it is called that, basically the teams that take place in the closed qualifiers of CCT are pretty much domestic to that region. And then there's various different TOs that will have responsibility of CCT, like West Europe. There'll be a different one for Central Europe. There'll be a different one for North Europe, etc. They then dish out the invites to the teams in the group stage onwards. So that's probably where you see that overlap because they are different TOs and they will just be like, hey, you're kind of at this level. Do you want to play in this tournament? And as a result, you'll get teams that aren't necessarily from that region that will play in different regions in CCT, but always for the closed qualifiers, it will be primarily from that region.
That makes a lot more sense to me now because I kept seeing different teams in like being pushed into some of the North ones. I was like, I'm sure this doesn't count.
Probably could have been worded a little bit better, but that's how I know it anyway. And I've been doing CCT since the first one.
So with this mezii move as well, because we know he's standing in, so that'll be the first time we get to see him at Blast.
Yeah.
How do you think he's going to fare into that system straight off the bat? Because he's a player with a lot of experience in a lot of different roles at this point. So do you think he'll slot in and kind of find a place pretty early on there? Or do you think it's going to take a bit of time?
I think it depends what Vitality want from him. Obviously, he said goodbye to Fnatic. Magiska said goodbye to Vitality. So we can loosely assume he's going to be there. So if I just talk on the basis of he's going to be there for a long time, I feel like with this tournament, because he is technically standing in and he's just getting to grips with the team, I feel like Vitality will be saying to him, just play the way you feel is correct. Because let's be honest, mezii has got a very like large amount of intelligence, and his game sense is pretty on point. And as you mentioned, he's played a lot of these roles, so they won't have to micromanage him that much. mezii isn't the sort of player either that will overstep into certain situations. mezii isn't the sort of player that will go hunting to kind of find those kills. And I feel like the biggest interesting point for me is that Fnatic, and I guess teams that mezii has been in, I think you can even throw Endpoint into that conversation, and Cloud9 to a certain extent, is that they haven't really had like a complete identity. It's only when, for Fnatic in particular, you've had Dexter come in, then you've had Afro on the AWP. Think back to before Afro joined Fnatic, and there was so much where there was a lot up in the air. The thing with Vitality is he's going into that team and he's going to have instant structure. And when Dexter took over the IGL duties in Fnatic, and he said to mezii, focus on your crosshair, I'm going to try and give you structure as much as I can with Cater. Look at how well he did. So I think you've now got him coming into one of the most structured teams in Tier 1. And I think he's going to do very well. Will he hit the ground running? I don't know. But it is mezii, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does do well. And I feel like structure will benefit him greatly, and that's something he's never really had for a long time.
One thing I always remember from mezii as well is like first game of a tournament, the guy just goes off. Like he just will. I'm not even sure how many kills we're expecting for like because we were trying to discuss like what's the new 30 bomb, but whatever that is, I could just see him doing it in his first game because it's just what they do. The other thing to note as well for Blast is Vitality have already qualified for the World Finals at the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
So whilst I'm sure every team is going to go into this wanting to win, it's still a tournament at the end of the day, but it's a really good event for them to be like, well, look, there's not really any pressure on you. Go in there, just play the system, learn the system, just use it as a complete learning experience. And, as we assume he's going to stick in the system, that's the greatest opportunity that any player could get. You go into a well-structured team, you're playing against some of the best teams in the world. And yeah, it's just a great learning experience for him. So I'm excited to see what it does.
I'm pretty sure that they will have that mentality of don't worry too much about doing things a little bit wrong. Just use this event against the best teams in the world to get used to how we call and how we set up rounds as well. Because obviously he's going to have a few weeks to practice with them, considering that Fnatic released that statement the other day. Blast isn't till the end of the month, so he's probably going to have like 3 weeks of prep with them. It wouldn't surprise me if he's actually looking a lot more polished and like he's integrated himself well in that team and he'll be able to contribute to set strats they want to run. That wouldn't surprise me either.
And it's good as well because he's not the only new guy in the team. They've just picked up Xtaz as well as the new coach, returning coach in some ways. So yeah, it's going to be definitely good for him to get into that team. And it's like he's joined with a friend from school almost. He hasn't played with him before, but you get to come in and greet it together so they can establish whatever new systems he'd like to do. And yeah, it could be a good experience for him.
Yeah, so it's funny because it's like Xtaz was part of the TSM project before Vitality, so he was always going to work with a UK player, and instead of Cypher, it's now mezii, so that's pretty cool.
It's almost like Endpoint is the academy project of Vitality as well at this point.
Yes, no, definitely is. Yeah, it feels that way.
So many job fill up. And
it's like
Prodigy...
Vitality at Liverpool and Endpoint at Southampton at this point, right?
Prodigy represents so many of their players. It's unbelievable. I can't remember if it was... I'm not sure if mezii is represented by them.
He is.
But there was a tweet. He is. So is it 5 of 5 now, or is it 4 of 5? I can't remember. But yeah, so they could basically just rename the team to the Prodigies, and they could play under that.
I think they will. Yeah, all of them are. All of them are under that.
They all are.
Yeah.
And Jerome's having a good time there. Then
he's a lovely bloke. I like Jerome a lot.
Try and get him on at some point as well. It was suggested when by one of the guys we have talked to at Prodigy.
I think that'd be good. Jerome, if you're watching this, come on.
Get on. It'd be a really interesting episode, I think, to discuss that area of the industry.
I think so.
Isn't often looked into. Other changes. big U-turn happening. NiKo has rejected Falcons, is what's been said. He's done the old Alexi B. Sometimes he went, sometimes he didn't. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know what Falcons are going to do now, because the question I have for you is, who is on NiKo's level to take that spot on Falcons that they had planned for him?
Oh, what a lovely question. I'm so glad Hawk is not here. And I have to answer all of these really hard questions. I don't
Because from my
know.
perspective, I don't think there's anyone with NiKo's experience, with his skill.
I completely agree with you. Unless you get Simple on the rifle.
Unless you get Simple on the rifle.
I'm just saying, in that tweet, he said, you know, I'm open to role changes. I'm open to maybe not AWP anymore, because AWP kind of sucks in CS2. So, I mean, that could happen. I need to cough. I'm sorry.
So, they can't get NiKo. Let's assume monezi's then also not going.
Oh, yeah, you'd imagine that it wouldn't be monizy, yeah.
So, what, Simple rifle, Shiro Warper?
You could do, but then how good Shiro's English?
That is a concern. I guess you could just communicate with Simple when they bait everyone. It's always an option for them at the end of the round. I mean, Inters is probably about somewhere as well, right?
He could take. He's on TSM. Role. Like he won't. Inters won't come over.
You just saying that to me has just reminded me that TSM has a roster. I know we just spoke about it with Xtaz, but it's just all.
How can you
come back in my mind?
How can you not remember TSM? I reckon I could name TSMs. It's Cypher, Jax, Modo, Valda, Inters. There you go.
Valda's the IGL, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I can start to remember why I wasn't remembering them.
That's not very nice.
Well, we'll see how they do in the future.
Going back on topic, because I like Cypher, and therefore I like TSM.
We can't put all of it because of one player though, Brandon.
We can, and we have. I think what's interesting with this Falcons thing is that a lot of people were kind of speculating about, well, this was the big thing for them to get. And I feel like it was, because I feel like without NiKo going, I don't think you get mezii going. And at what point do Falcons maybe recall some of their players they've put on the bench? I feel like we might be jumping the gun on this podcast stack a little bit, because tonight, Sonic and Falcons CEO are on HLTV confirmed. So all of these answers we'll probably have answers to after we stop recording, but that's fine, because that's more conversation topic for next time.
Yes, definitely more conversation coming up on the next episodes. But I would imagine that they would have a backup in mind. I don't see a world where you drop 4 players and you don't and you then recall them. I feel like that's such a poor decision and such a poor move if they were to start bringing back some of those 4 players. That's an NIP level move.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well now, it's like, okay, well, if mezii wasn't in the picture or was in the picture and now isn't alongside NiKo, who do you get? And I've seen people on Twitter saying some Pious. I don't like that, honestly. I've seen people say Shiro. I wouldn't mind it, but I worry about the communication. There's so many question marks now, and I feel like the thing for me is as well is that people are giving Zonic a little bit of stick because of that benching of 4 of those players, because when he came in his statement, he said, I don't want to drop anyone prematurely. And then 4 players have instantly been dropped, and Boros is the only one that's been kept. Now, whether they've been practicing quite a lot and they've been playing with Zonic, and I don't think that's happened, because he joined officially on the 1st. So it's now, at the time of this recording, it's been 6 days. And you've gone in there, and I know he's got a lot of experience. I know like he is a very well-respected coach. I've got a lot of time and respect for Zonic as well. But I don't think in 6 days you can go, I've critically analyzed all of these players, all 5 of them, and I want to drop 4 in 6 days. So I think like that might be a little bit misleading. There's a lot of conversation pieces and questions about Falcons and how they operate.
You'd imagine that the only reason that you do that within less than a week is because the team has said we've got X amount for you to go and spend, and he's gone, well, I can build you the best team. I don't want these 4 players that aren't winning as a 5 currently. They're not not performing as a 5. So yeah, you can imagine that's why. And I think as well, although it does feel shitty for those 4 players that have been dropped, especially because they only got signed, some of them, after the major, the likes of Lux and MHL.
Like July, right?
Yeah. So it feels shitty for them, but at the same time, from Zonic's perspective, if you're given this opportunity, you are building the best team. And if you have the option to bring people that you've already worked with, like Magisk, then for me, that's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, it's definitely shitty for what it is for the other 4 players, but Falcons want to be a successful team, and Zonic seems to have the pieces in mind to make that happen. So we'll have to see again. It's lots of question marks still. Every episode we've spoken about Falcons since that first announcement we had on the episode where we had Azar on. It's just been question mark, and I feel like we're not going to get any answers until the end of the year. There's not that long left. There's not that many tournaments left for them to even really compete in at this point. I feel like it's get the blast out of the way, and then we'll see what happens with it. There's one more team.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, I thought what was interesting as well is that NiKo's been quite vocal about his decision to stay. Like Bubsky put out a tweet, and it was basically a quote tweet of something he said originally, which is, I wonder if players are going to leverage the Falcons' offers to get new contracts. And he quote tweeted that when the NiKo news happens, and he said, my best guess is this is what's happened. And NiKo just replied under, your guess is wrong. So
yeah, didn't he also say, like, someone said, I assume NiKo is the highest paid player in the game, and he just said, I'm like, that's wrong. Just straight up, that's wrong. For me, then, I mean, besides the players on that team, do you think that there could be, like, it's just against pure speculation, but do you think that there's another reason then why he stayed? Like, maybe a little bit more control over something on the team or anything like that?
I feel like where you look at the fact that G2 has achieved pretty decently in 2023, there's been a lot of noise, obviously, about Hooksy and just the direction in which the roster was going in. They've proved people wrong with Katowice. They've proved people wrong with Cologne. They've got to be feeling very happy with how their roster sits. We are in a brand new life cycle in CS2. They came in towards the back end of CSGO, winning tournaments. They probably want to stick together to see what it's like. And also, you did say about players on the team, but it's worth mentioning that NiKo probably feels a lot more comfy here in G2 as well. The fact he's been there for 3 years, he's working with his cousin. Like, there's probably a lot of sentimental value there, and he didn't want to prioritize money over that, which is incredibly commendable, and you've got to give him an awful amount of respect.
And the other thing as well, I was chatting to one of my colleagues about it, about Snappy. Apparently there's something in his contract that, like, he's allowed to go to the other team as long as NiKo's playing for that team, because he wants to play with NiKo so badly. So I don't know, G2 sniped that deal maybe?
I've never heard that before, so I feel that's a bit of a that's the one that we go, here's what we've heard as a speculation. You think about it and you let us know in the comments what you think. And do you think that's cool? Do you think that's real? Do you think Snappy has a NiKo clause in his contract? Once we get more intel, which we probably won't, we'll tell you on the next episode.
Do you imagine if that became a norm for players of, like, I want to play with this player so badly that's my buyout clause. Like, as long as I get the option, you let me go.
I can't. I mean,
it'd be
can't
hectic.
See it. That'd be wild.
Yeah.
Fair. If it is, fair, but I don't think it is.
I mean, if it's the case, though, it definitely diminishes the chances of Snappy moving over to Falcons if, that was, like, his reason why he wanted to go.
True.
Yeah, talks of Glaive will be replacing him, but again, it's all speculation. The thing that isn't speculation that we can discuss is Cloud9 have no Warper. They've signed Boomich. And you said you had a little take on this, Brandon, so let's hear it.
I wonder if, with the state that CS2 is in right now, especially with AWP, um, whether we're going to see this a lot more. We're going to see players actually prioritize teams that have 5 primary rifles, and then you pick up the AWP on situation and map specific as well. Like for Cloud9, I've watched a little bit of them, obviously at Thunderpick. They were looking really good with Boomich. I feel like that the reason why they were looking good is because obviously you've got previous chemistry, Boomich playing with Electronic and Perfecto, but also you've kind of just got a little bit more belief, I feel like, in the team, and where it's just like it's a complete shake up, it's something new, it's uncharacteristic as well. Hey, look, we're not going to run with one player that is definitely an AWP. So it's interesting. We've seen roles merge and like shift during the life cycle of Go. I wonder in CS2, look, I don't know what the state is going to be like when it comes to the economy. Obviously, they need to fix the inaccuracies when you get hit with the AWP if you're using it. That will be patched, but we don't know how long the economy is going to be here for. So all of these teams making roster changes, they're making them with the current major in mind. We know, because we know that is a guarantee. We know that is the finite thing. So what Cloud9 have been doing in particular is Overpass, CT side, Boomich AWPs. Ancient, CT, Perfecto AWPs. Perfecto was second AWP in anyway for both Na'Vi and Cloud9, but the reason why he was AWP in is because, think about his position, he plays A anchor on Ancient, so it makes sense to hold an AWP there. I feel like it's come purely out of like convenience rather than, oh, we need to have an AWP on this map. I think it become a lot more like spot dependent, and I think it's really interesting to think about. And if Cloud9 are going that way and they're doing well, that will also kind of like set a meta, and maybe teams will just start to adjust to it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting as well to see if like the the best performing players at tournaments, you just get a lot more top heavy of riflers compared to AWPers coming up over the next, because as you say, if it becomes meta dependent, the whole scene changes to this, then definitely interesting. We were speaking about how what team will set that meta in CS2, and when you've got Simple coming out saying that he's happy to switch to rifling because the AWP isn't as good, isn't as viable as it was before, then it's definitely worth seeing. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch Cloud9 over the coming weeks, coming months, and see how well that they can do. I did see someone say some good things about them on Nuke, managing to actually win a CT side on Nuke without an AWP. It's just quite a feat.
They were playing that really aggressively as well. That was really cool to watch. Especially because obviously Cloud9 don't normally play Nuke, but Na'Vi used to play Nuke quite a lot, so it makes sense that 3 of the 5 are going to be quite compact on, like, quite good on Nuke. So you play it. That was really interesting to watch, actually, because it was very aggressive outside, electronic, Boomich, pushing outside quite a lot, having these quick flanks. As soon as they took contact, they also pushed ramp, and they were just crunching, and they're making things so uncomfy. It was a really interesting watch, and they were trying to like shake up Nuke meta. And it's like, if you're trying to shake up, you're going to do all these things. You're going to do it with 5 rifles, which makes you a lot more flexible as well. You can make you go for a lot more of these aggressive plays because you don't have kind of a turret in terms of an AWP, right? I feel like that's actually really interesting. The way CS2 is, it is a lot more of an aggressive game at the moment. So if Cloud9 become the Trailblazers, then that's really cool. And I'm smiling a lot as well because I know we're talking about Boomich, I know we're talking about Cloud9, but HLTV have just released an article saying Monte have released an academy team, and we've got another UK representative on that team.
That Gizmy.
Gizmy, yeah. He's very good, and I'm glad he's got an opportunity.
I once upon a time, back in the early days of my Counter-Strike team career, back when I had aspirations to be a pro, like many, it must have been 2015, 16, probably 2016. I played on a team with Gizmy. He was a player that got brought in by another player on the team. We had many good things to say about him back then. But he was 13 maybe playing at the time. Yeah, so I remember when it came to the team kind of disbanding, one thing I said about him was that he's going to be very good if he keeps putting in the time. He was just very talkative, very, very talkative, as most 13-year-olds are when they're around people who are a couple years older than them. They want to try and show off. So yeah, I'm very happy to see his career has progressed in such a way, because yeah, it was really weird. The first time I saw it, I think, was when he played the Insomnia, and I was like, surely this isn't the same Gizme. But
yeah, well,
Lord behold, it was.
Now went to the RMRs with
Yeah.
Viperio, and now he's on the Galaxy for Monte. Good luck to him. Sorry, I derailed everything. Boomich.
No. Yeah, it's very interesting, and yeah, best of luck to him. One thing I was going to say was, when we talk about riflers just then, I mean, what an incredible set of riflers they have as well to take that approach as well. I mean, Boomich as well is an IGL who is a much better fragger than most in the scene.
True.
So yeah, I mean, when you list like Electronic, Axel, Hobbit, and Perfecto, yeah, my God, that is a wild set of riflers. I mean, everyone was expecting them to do well when the team got announced, and that was with Shiro. And I think removing Shiro, people had question marks. Well, he benched himself. So yeah, this approach is a good one, and I'm glad to see Electronic isn't an IGL anymore, because it's something I've missed, seeing him on the server like that. So we can go into talking about the Asia Championships, and I think there's any other moves that we've really got to talk about. It's just going to be more speculation.
Nothing concrete yet. Yeah, I think we're good to talk about Asia Championships. I guess we can talk about Izza, the fact that he's now back on a team as well. They got announced today. Gigi Howe International, and he's playing with like Savage from Australia, which is cool. Keen from Latvia, and then you got Dav Costa Mini, who was still there anyway. That's really cool, actually. I like Savage. I've met him a few times. He's a very nice kid.
It's nice to see that they're all back. Like, he's back on a team as well, and yeah, we'll see how they do as well in the coming weeks. But talking about Asia Championships, what we're going to do is we're just going to use Pickstop to go through basically just predictions for the event, see what we come out with, and yeah, you can do the same on other sites as well, and then you can go check out the odds over at Pinnacle if you think your picks are correct and if you're very confident in them. So, Brandon, we'll kick it off. Ents Tyloo. I don't think there's going to be too much disagreement across this whole event. The one thing as well to note is that for this event, you only have to win one game to get to playoffs, and I believe the group stage is being played in front of an audience as well. So
yeah, it is.
Consider for the Chinese teams that are playing. So Ents Tyloo, Ents are playing without Diha. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting for them. What have you made of them so far in CS2?
Ents, kind of what you expect, really. We haven't really seen too much out of them, to be honest, obviously, because there's not been all that many tier 1 events right now for them. So I think that I don't really know what to expect. I expect them to do well. Obviously, you're playing with Vladen. Vladen was one of those players, if people were a little bit unfamiliar with who Vladen is, then I can tell you, because I'm a tier 2 nerd. But he was really good sort of towards the end of 2022, start of 2023 with iNation. And I think they made it to the RMR as well. Vladen was the feature piece of that, incredibly good player. After that run, they kind of just fell off a cliff, and then the org dropped them. I think they just stopped being in Counter-Strike. Vladen was just kind of left out to dry, which is a shame. And I thought he'd get into a team a lot sooner than he did, and he didn't, unfortunately. I think that was in like July. iNation stops with the team, which is a real shame, because I wanted us to do well. He came third at IESF, if I remember rightly, because I think he was on that Serbia team. I can pull this up, actually. Let me just actually get my facts right. Yeah, I was right. Cool. And yeah, they were at the RMR. They actually lost 2 Ents, 2-0 in the O2 record. So unfortunate, but Vladen was second highest on that team. in that game. I feel like he'll do well. I feel like Snappy's got obviously really good at kind of implementing people into the structure. I don't think Vlada normally shares the same roles as Diha though, so that'll be interesting for me to see. They should beat Tyloo. They should beat Tyloo, but Tyloo have got no jet lag. They're used to the time zone. They're going to have the support of the crowd behind them. If they're playing with a crowd, you're playing with a stand-in. It should be Ence's game to win, but it would not surprise me if Tyloo beat them. It wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I've got 2 players from Tyloo in my fantasy team, so I would say, fuck it, let's go Tyloo.
So at this point, you want Tyloo to win as well, right? For your fantasy team?
I do, yeah.
You want them to make it all the way.
Realistically, if we're doing this non-biased, Ents should be winning that best of 3.
Yeah, I think the things we've seen from Ents so far, it's very limited, as you say. We saw him at Sydney, and they didn't have the finish there that they would have hoped for. CS2 is different. There's just not enough of a sample size yet to see how Ents are playing and how they're doing. But with rumors of changes as well, you wonder how that might affect the morale of the team, especially if you've got rumors that Snappy is leaving and then you're already playing with a stand-in for the event. It's not going to be great. But I think the one thing for Ents,
to win. No.
the one thing for Ents, where we talk about having to travel to China, they probably knew that D-Hall wasn't going to be able to come a fair while in advance.
Probably, yeah.
And with Ents not really, are they in Blast Ents?
Yes, they're in the upcoming Blast stuff, yeah.
So you got to try and consider as well, how much are they pracking with Diha versus Vladen? Because you're going to want to focus on this event. This is the first one of the 2. It's a tough call to make, because you think maybe that where this game's new and the Asian teams haven't had that much success in CSGO, that in CS2 it's their time to try and change that. And with a new game, there's a lot of aspects that they can take advantage of early on. They've not got to learn a meta halfway through the games, being in as an esport. So yeah, and I worry about Kaze as well. He said he's going to definitely be playing off the crowd, and so will Tyloo. So there's an opportunity there.
I've watched Tyloo. I've watched actually all of these teams from the Asia region that are competing here at the CS Asia Championships. I've watched all of them in Challenger League, so I can tell you kind of like how they're doing. What I will say is that we know that these like Asia Pacific teams are very aggressive, and that's what they were like in Go. Nothing has changed in CS2. They are, in fact, probably more aggressive than they were before. And the only thing you worry about with that, then, if you've got a stand-in, is if they just go, right, we're going to run at Vladen every round. Like that's where it might get tricky. So I feel like Ents should be winning this. However, I think it goes 3 maps. I don't think it's a 2-0.
No, I agree with that. Just speaking of that, wasn't there a strat that was it Monte in the major, and they came out after an interview saying, well, we knew this player played in Connector on Mirage, so we just pushed him every round.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if they did that. But you make a really good point. If we track all the way back to earlier conversation with meta, as there's not really a set meta in the game as well, and Tyloo and a lot of these Asian players haven't really had a problem mechanically. It's never been their issue. It's been adjusting to the meta of EU when they've had to travel over.
Yeah.
So because there's not really an established meta, they have a real chance at upsetting some of these big teams.
Yeah, they do.
Especially if they've been able to pick up the the overall feeling of the game, because we know that's changed. And if they've been able to do that a lot more than likes of Ents, especially because it's still very unknown of how much they've had time to prac with Vladen. So yeah, I'm definitely agreeing with you with 3 maps, but I also, from a non-biased perspective, Ents should take the series. But I'd like Tyloo to do it at home. I think it'd be a good story, but I think we have to say Ents, don't we?
I think so, yeah. I feel like, yeah, it has to be.
Oh, but they're best of ones, aren't they?
Are they? Oh,
yeah, I thought they were best of 3s as well for such a short series.
All right, Tyloo are winning.
Tyloo upset in the first match. Yeah, it's got to be.
There we go. So wait, so you have to win. So
you win one game.
Then, if you win a best of 1, you
qualify for playoffs.
Oh, we
for
tie. Okay.
for a
Well,
$500,000
that's
prize pool, by the
ridiculous.
way.
So, or you could lose your best of one, but then you win your best of three.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the format of this event at all, especially considering there's $500,000 as the prize pool. It's
I can't. Well, like
obscene.
we'd assume it'd be BO3s, and then I look over and it just says
You're only having to
BO1.
play 2 games. Like,
Oh mate, yeah, Ty Lue easy. Oh, that's all day long.
they're gonna get the crowd
Get
behind them. Enter jet lagged.
get ready for upsets here in BO1s. Let me tell you.
And okay, we're gonna go with Tyler. Yeah, we happy with this?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you know, we can be glad Hawker's not here. I feel like he'd argue against the Tyler pick,
Yeah,
but
well,
I'm happy
shut
to
up,
ride
man.
with it.
Like, Hawker, you got any input? Oh, okay, yeah.
He's got to be Tyler then. Astralis and Lin Vision. So one thing to take into account is that Lin Vision have just won the IEM China qualifier that was meant to happen, a year ago now? Got cancelled, so that's happening next year. The other thing that Kazu said in an interview is that he believes that Lin Vision is the top team in China.
Who said that? Sorry,
Kaze.
Okay, yeah.
Which is a little bit worrying, from the opposing team. You're probably your national rivals, your regional rivals, and you're saying that the other team is better, which is a little bit concerning.
No, that's a humble king. You don't mind that. I think the thing is, you look at map pool here for Astralis Lin Vision, it goes overpass or it goes nuke, and I think. I just feel like Astralis are going to win it. Even though they've not looked good recently online, at LAN, they're different. At LAN, they've been different in recent times. So...
The only thing with Astralis as well, which I'm just really confused about after all the heroic drama, is surely if, okay, again, it's rumors, speculation, but if Starvin and Yabi are joining this team, surely 2 players are aware they're going to be cut. That would play on my
but don't worry about that now. It sounds silly, but you can't worry about that now because it's months down the line, and
because they're waiting till their contracts are up, right?
Yeah.
I'd feel
it can create uncertainty. Of course, it can.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the mentality you have to do is, look, we're professionals. We are now going to a tournament that we were already planning for. We've dressed up and look really cool on social media. The vibes are there. I think
they did blame F Dirty in that, by the way.
They did. I don't know. I feel like you've got to be professional about this, and also every game you have with Astralis, every tier 1 event you have to be putting on your best version of yourself. So when your contract does run out, or say Yabi and Stown do go to Astralis, then you can go, hey, look, here are all of my achievements. We won this, or we ran deep in these tournaments. I played really well. Come and pick me up. And maybe they go, who knows? Maybe they go to Heroic. You don't know. Maybe it could just be a swap.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think too much of some of these rumors from a psychological perspective, how it would affect the players. Because I know if that was me, it would be running through my head every night that at some point, there's a chance that I'm getting replaced. But maybe it's a system, a thing as well, where the 3 players that are left there, they want to play even better to fight for that final spot because 2 players go. We're not sure who it will be. Then so I agree with you as well. I think Astralis should take it. They've played a fair bit of CS2 at this point, and as you say, if they want to have that on record of how well they did during their time in this team, well, you want to do that on LAN, and they get that chance to play on LAN. So yeah, I definitely would go with Astralis here, which sounds silly after we've said that Ents are losing in the first round, but
but look, we can't look.
We can't change the picks now. The picks are set.
We've clicked it now. Like, I think Astralis though.
Okay, we'll put Astralis.
Yeah.
So do you want to do the upper bracket or do you want to do the lower bracket?
Okay. Oh, if you're thinking logically, then Ent should be Linvision,
Yeah.
and
That's at best of 3. So how do we think that one's going to go?
oh, okay.
Considering that Kaze's saying that
These guys,
Linvision are the best
yeah,
Chinese team.
but Linvision played against Ents in a BO1, I remember, and they at Sydney they lost 13-6. And to be fair, that was a D her popping off, but I look, it's just 2-0. It just is.
Okay. Let's go with the 2-0.
I know that Kaze has said that Linvision are the best team in China. I don't actually agree with that. I think it's Tyloo. And I'm just going to say that it's my opinion. Because I think if we actually want opinions, and probably that is why I'm here. Jam Young is best player in CS2 on Tyloo's roster. Kaze is also very consistent. And once mezii adjusts to the game, then they will clearly be the best team, in my opinion, in China.
So you just think that Linvision have adapted better in the early days?
I think Linvision has currently adapted better, yes.
Gotcha.
But I'm seeing continuous improvement when I watch Tyloo. And I haven't watched enough Linvision to comment on that for them either. So I don't want to sit here and say they're not improving, because that would be unfair. What I would say is Amelia is pretty bloody good. And I think it's Zarka. He's very good as well, and young. So they've got a lot of potential here. I think that's good. I think that's what's really good as well for just the teams in the APAC region. That they've got young players that are coming through that are motivated to play, and they are performing at the highest level, and they're now going to have that rivalry, and they've got the respect there between each other. So it's cool. But I think Ent should win it, and I feel like Astralis in theory should win theirs as well, even though I want to say Tyloo because of my fantasy team.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think with Tyloo as well, is that call up from Rare Atom to Tyloo is going to be a big thing for these players as well, where you are playing for what is regarded as the best CSGO team from the Asia region.
Yeah,
during that time. So they've come into Tyloo, and I think most people, if you know nothing about any of the Counter-Strike that goes on in China, most people will just see Tyloo, remember seeing them on the pick'ems on CSGO, and they'll just be like, well, surely Tyloo are the best team. So they got a lot to play for as well, being in that organization now, such a decorated organization for Counter-Strike. So yeah, it's big for them as well. I think it's good for them.
And also, Tyloo want to do well here because then they've got Challenger Yongshiping at the end of the month, because they qualified through the Asia Close qualifier. So they're going to want to do well at LAN so they can actually feel more confident when going to Europe as well. And I think actually that's quite a hard event for them, but there's a chance that they could do something.
And this will be good for them to get that experience going into it.
Exactly.
Whilst they are a home crowd here, they're going to have a very different experience when they arrive, I imagine, in Finland. So Astralis, we're saying 2-1?
I don't mind. You can do the score for this one.
I'll say 2-1. So
okay.
Our qualified teams would be first place Astralis, second place Tyloo, third place Ents.
So, true and real, yeah.
So so it'd be Astralis to win the 2 games. So that's how you achieve your first place, which puts you straight into the semis. So for the next one,
I also think, by the way, if we got the best of one wrong between Ents and Tyloo, and Ents do win out the best of one, and you see Tyloo and Linvision in that rematch, I feel like the veto's different to what it was last time they played against each other, and I feel like Tyloo win because they got a deeper map pool.
I think the 3 teams that we've picked to get out of the group are correct. So yeah, I agree with you what you're saying there as well.
Cool. This one's harder.
Yeah, well, Mao's
really.
Wings up. I think we can easily say Mao's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
FaZe,
I don't think there's too much discussion on that.
About this. Put FaZe through.
I'll put FaZe through because they haven't got Alex. Okay, there's no structure to him yet. But yeah, I think the main talking points for this group is FaZe clearly currently number 1 in CS2.
Yep.
Mao's back with their full roster on LAN as well, which is good for them. They had pretty good showing at Sydney without Infat. And NIP, they've looked better since having some of the changes, but they've still come into this event with Maxter instead of Alex, who they've just picked up as their IGL. So STAG will be temporarily IGLing the roster here. Because of that, I think they should be expected to make out the group, but any further in playoffs, I think is too much of an ask for this team, considering they've not come with their desired team that they will be playing with at Blast at the end of the month.
Agreed. Yeah. Also important to note for Wings Up is that they are playing with 2 stand-ins, because Wings Up, one of the 2 teams alongside Rare Atom, I think it was, that made the switch to bring international people in. So Kriaz and Bloggis can't play at this event due to the nature of the rules. So instead, I think you've got Marek and Child King that is going to be playing for Wings Up. So I don't think you can expect too much out of them. I feel like NIP should beat them in the BO3 game.
How much do you think
2-0.
they won? 2-0, yeah? Okay.
2-0.
I think if they don't win this match, I mean, it's a concern for them because you've just brought in a new player, but they should just win it. I don't even put the thought in my head that they don't win it, but
he says wearing the jersey. Yeah.
yeah.
Look, and like they should beat them. Moving on to the more spicier game,
Mao's FaZe.
Track record would indicate that FaZe should be winning it, and I think they will again.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think FaZe have adapted really well to CS2. I feel like it could. Last time at Thunderpick, it was 2-0. That was online.
I think it'll be 2-1.
I think it's 2-1. Yeah.
Yeah. I think with FaZe, it's almost a shame that if Twist is going to Liquid, that is happening, considering how well they've done. Maybe they didn't expect to perform this well, which is why that might be happening. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame if that does happen. But it depends who they bring in as well to replace him. So if they bring in Frozen, who knows? We'll see what happens. So I don't know if we can pick the playoffs. No, we can't. Okay, so what we've got is FaZe, Mouse, and NIP to go from Group B, and Group A will be Ents, Stralis, and Tyloo.
We can work it out if you want to do playoffs, because it's going to be.
We'd have to
here Group A. So the first match is Group.
Stop sharing.
First group, it's basically the second place is taking on the third places for the other group.
Is it from either group? The only problem is with that, because I did look at this on HLTV, and it doesn't say which group will be in the top part of the bracket and which group will be in the bottom part of the bracket.
Well, it won't matter in theory, will it?
What? Because who's going to end up in the final?
Oh no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so like we don't know.
You are right. We probably can't do it then.
So it's kind of tough to predict.
Well, we could do the quarterfinals.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know who gets seeded into those unless they. For anyone, for you guys watching, for us trying to figure this out, basically, if you go on HLTV and you look at the playoffs, it just says second place, third place. It doesn't say Group A or Group B. So when the teams will, if we're speculating who will be in what stage,
based on what we've done in the group stage, we will have Tyloo versus Nip, and then Mouse versus Ents.
So Tyloo Nip,
yeah,
I would expect Nip to win that game. I think it'll be a 2-1, but I think they will win it, even without the IGL. I still think STAG's got enough to bring to the table for that, and I think Rez and Headtrick have adapted really well. I think Rez has been the standout player for me on NIP, who's adapted really well. But Ents Mouse, that's
that's Mouse say Mouse, surely, yeah.
How would you see that match going if it wasn't with a stand-in for Ents?
I think Ents would win that.
You think so?
If they had D-her, yeah. I'm not. I even know like Mouse did well at Sydney. I'm not entirely convinced at the moment, and that's only because we've got such a small sample size, and I've just got to go. I think historically, the amount that Ents has achieved and has been consistent has been over a longer period than Mouse. So that's why I would more heavily lean to say Ents over Mouse if we had their full lineup. But because they've got Vladden, I don't know how good Vladden is in CS2. Might be an absolute beast, and I don't know.
Just
But
carries the whole event.
I would say Mouse should win that. Yeah.
So are we? I mean, in my mind, FaZe should win the event considering their form.
They
I would put FaZe as my favorite for the event as well. I think, especially as they would probably play. Maybe they play NIP again. Yeah, we obviously don't know how it would work out in the bracket, but that was probably how it would end up being. So yeah, the Asia Championships in China are a little bit hard to chuck our guesses out. It's a very short tournament in terms of matches played. There's not many. It's like six games total for the playoffs. Not for players, sorry, for the groups, and then the playoffs is 5 games.
Yep.
So it's a very small amount of games, which, I mean, it might be nice. It's going to be nice for us to actually catch a game at like 10 a.m. But the 4 a.m. games for the UK viewers and some of Europe, which we got 5 a.m. That is not enjoyable at all. I probably will not be catching those ones.
I will be watching. That's tonight, right?
Because it's 4 a.m. Yeah,
4 a.m. I'll be there. I'll be tuning you on Tyloo.
So when we come back to the next episode, you'll give us the wrap on why Tyloo, how they won the event.
Let's see it.
We'll get a deep dive analysis from Brandon. Yeah, I think I remember seeing Yumi on Maui's show saying he screwed his entire schedule for Sydney. And I think that is the only shame at the minute for me, is that CS2 is out, but it doesn't really feel like the esports has kicked off all that much, because other than the online events, the LAN events have all been in regions where I have to, I can't watch basically just because of my work schedule. It just isn't viable. So yeah, it's quite tough to be tracking who's doing well at the minute.
I don't have any work now for the rest of the week, so I will be watching. I will be there no matter what. Are
you able to co-stream any of it?
Probably not. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm watching it in bed, mate. I don't want to put it up on Twitch.
Put the bed stream on. Get the Brandon bed stream on.
No, there's no way.
Brandon in his PJs co-streaming the Asia Championships.
Morning, guys. Welcome to That's funny because I actually didn't yawn. I just turned it into a bit.
It was a good bit. We appreciate the bit. Yeah, I think that's everything for this episode. It's a much shorter one. The year's coming to an end, so there's a lot less tournaments. Most of the tournaments for this month are taking place towards the end of the month, so it's really just this one. There's changes happening, but we'll have more to discuss when we have Hawker back. We can see what the approach for Falcons is going to be, which is going to be very interesting. We're covering Blast, the Challenger event in Finland, whose name I'm trying to sway away from because I know I'll say it wrong, even though I've heard you say it at least 4 times this episode.
Finland?
It's in Finland, right?
What, Jönköping?
Yeah.
That's Sweden.
Is it Sweden?
Yeah.
Is it? I thought it was in Finland.
No.
Oh, it's all gone wrong.
Don't want to out you there.
Oh, it's the Elisa Masters that's in Finland.
Oh,
that's
the Espo. Yeah, the Espo. Okay,
but no, it was the Swedish one I'm on about. But I'm thinking, I'm combining the 2 events.
I was going to say I've not
said.
The thing is, I've not said Espo, or Espo, or however they want to call it.
No, that's a lot easier to pronounce than any of the Swedish places and cities. So we'll stray away from that. But yeah, so they're the events that are going to be taking place at the end of the month. So we're going to have a lot to discuss in the next episode. I think there's 3 events taking place that we'll be able to talk about,
also,
as well as any changes.
If you want to ask us anything, do it. We don't really say that to the community. We don't say, "Hey guys." If you want to ask me specifically anything about Donk or like any propaganda, let me know. If you want
do you know what? I thought we were going to go an episode.
No,
one episode.
No. Can't do it.
We got away from it. The donkey has made his return.
Can't do it. If you want to ask Hawker why he's not here and if we can have a house tour, that's what I want on the next episode. I want Hawker to carry his laptop around every room and give us a house tour. Pinnacle Stack cribs.
it would just disturb all his roommates who have
I know.
no interest in CS or anything. We'll see. Yeah. So at Hawker on Twitter and berate him until
Yeah,
he gives us a
okay, yeah,
house
sure.
tour. But yeah, that's been all for this. Is there anything you're up to at the minute, Brandon? You say you're off for the week. Are you planning on streaming anytime soon?
No.
No.
I'm releasing some YouTube content though at some point. I'm not going to give you an exact date because knowing me, it won't come out on time. But you know, maybe we can check in on that on the next episode. We can keep me accountable for that as well. But
Yeah,
no
if you've not
streams
done it,
planned.
if you've not done it by the next episode, then we'll get on to you about it. But have we got Hawker onto your quiz yet?
No, Hawker, come
That's
on.
another thing. Get the ats
Yeah.
out again, and we'll get him on that as well. So yeah, that is going to be everything from us on this episode of Pinnacle Stack. Hope you've enjoyed. You can leave comments, as Brandon says, ask us some questions. You can do it on Twitter. You can at Pinnacle Esports. You can at Brandon, which is BDogCS now. He's dropped the go. And yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.